Good morning, everybody. It's Alan. And today I'm going to work on this narrow leaf ficus. And I like this tree. It's pretty cool. It has very nice movement, nice branching. And it has a couple of very interesting scars. One right here and one up into here. And if we look, they are very close to what the Japanese call uro, which is spelled U-R-O, and it's just defined as a scar where the vellum is healing over, but it hasn't healed, so there's a hole, and that is called uro. Most uro is round, but I still call those guys uro, the scars that this tree has. It has nice movement, it has a massive trunk, it's in a very shallow pot, and I think I'm going to keep it in that pot. But I'm actually going to take a saw, this guy right here, and I'm going to saw the roots straight across. And you see all these little tiny roots. If you can see right here, we have a whole bunch of little tiny roots. That guy right there, and this guy right here, and all this little stuff here. Those will all sprout. And even though we're basically going to be cutting off almost all the roots that this tree has down in the soil, it will survive. Ficus nervifolia is one of the few that can be treated like that, have virtually all the roots cut, and it will still live. And then you can take the roots that you cut off and plant them, and they will sprout. And I have an example of that. And I think what I'll do is I'll just, instead of taking the camera over to where it is, I'm just going to bring that root cutting over here. So this root cutting was removed from a much larger tree. But as you can see the old roots in there. You can still see the old circling roots, because this root mass was removed because the tree was very root bound and the roots were circling. And I helped my friend saw these roots off, and then I talked him into letting me have the roots. He kept the tree, which is very similar to the tree I've got here. And so there you go. This was just a mass of roots with no foliage of any kind, and then it started to sprout, and now it's really ready to be turned into a forest. Typically, Jim Smith used to do this a lot, and then he would take these root cuttings and turn them into grove plantings or forest plantings, which makes the most sense because they just sprout out all over the place. So that's what I'm going to do with the roots that I cut off of this guy. I'm going to put them in a different pot and let them resprout. And another interesting thing is it's beginning to fruit. So there's a whole bunch of very young fruit. And I'm not going to even be concerned with that. And then the only other thing I want to do is to give the tree a haircut. And if I chop off some fruit, well, so be it. And I'm just gonna, the branching is perhaps a little busy, but for now I'm just going to leave the branching. I'm not going to try to manipulate the branching in any way other than just cut some of the tips off. Except for this one here. This one here I wanted to get a little bit wider. So I'm going to leave this branch here to grow out wider, out into here. And like I said when I showed you the root cutting, You really need 2 people to do this. But I only have me, so I'm going to give it the old college try. And virtually any time I've ever helped someone or seen someone do root cuttings on a Nerofolia like this, they've used a power tool. And I have a power tool, but I'm just not really all that confident that I'm not going to cut one of my fingers off using a power tool. So I'm just going to do it with this saw. And this is a really, really old saw. You can see how incredibly crusty it is, but it's got a brand new blade. An Ace 21 inch. And I normally don't promote a business or products, but Ace was the only place I'd even sold a replacement blade. I mean, the saw itself, even though it's incredibly crusty, is still perfectly intact, perfectly capable of holding a new blade, and nowhere else even sold a blade. They want you to buy another whole saw, and so Ace was the only place that had the blade, just the blade, and it's brand new, like brand new, never cut anything yet. And this guy also is tied down into the soil with wire on both sides, so that needs to come off. Then we'll take him out of the pot, and like I said, I'm going to saw this puppy right about like that. I don't like this straightness. If we look here, you can see this is very straight. The whole root mass right here, this line right across is very straight. And so I'm going to try to eliminate a lot of that straightness. And then the plan is to put it back in the same pot. And then, go from there. So I think the next thing I need to do, I'm pretty ready to do the chopping. Like I said, I was only going to give it a minor haircut. I need to remove the anchoring wires, pull it out of the pot, get my tray, and then attempt to saw it by hand. So that should be interesting. So I got my pliers. I'm going to unravel the wire. I think I'm just going to cut it off too, so all those curly cues are going to make it much more difficult to pull the wire through the drain holes. So this one here, there's a root coming right across. Now that broke all by itself, which can happen. Wire that's down in the soil like this tends to degrade much more quickly. Okay, so we've got the wire out of the way. Let's see how easy it is to get this guy out of this pot. Oy, oy, oy. If you can see, the wires that were anchoring the pot are still all the way straight across. So I think I need to just cut those away entirely. As close to the drain hole as I can get. And I'm also going to take the anchors that are on the drain holes and straighten those out. So now it should come. Oh yeah, look at that, it just fell off. Just totally fell out. I should be able to save this screen. There's one piece. There's piece number 2. You're going to need to cut that root. This guy right here. Oh. And there's piece number 3. So I got all that out of there. I really want to get rid of the wire. Don't want any wire sticking up. That's going to mean I'm going to have to saw through the wire with a brand new blade. Sawing through wire would probably dull it as quickly as you could possibly imagine. This guy does not want to go. Where are you? Why aren't you going? Well, I guess that's as good as it's going to get. And now, the fun begins. I'm going to use that same pot, so I'm just going to go and clean it off. I'm going to get my tray here. And attempt to just saw this puppy. So, wish me luck. And Ficus does not have really hard wood, so that makes it even more difficult to saw. Alright, there we go. Fini. And look at that. It's a whole bunch of old roots. And how does the tree look? Cut quite a bit off. No question about that. Probably more than I had planned. But once you begin, it's sort of like, okay, here you go, you're going. Hi. All right, well. I'm still very confident that, see, we still got these little roots here and these guys here, and it will just sprout with new roots all along the whole trunk. So where were we here on this thing? Just want to take an inventory of where we were at. Is that what was there? Yeah. See, because I'm looking at this and there's nothing here, which I would love to have some roots here, but even in the old formation there was still nothing there. So get this puppy back into some soil as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go rinse out the pot and then be back. So I was able to use or reuse all of the drainage screen, and it's interesting because this pot, I don't know if you can see it, it says made in Korea. Very interesting, made in Korea. I didn't know. I know they make mica pots in Korea, but that's a nice ceramic pot. And then the tree is going to end up in here somewhere, about the same as it was. And there's no question that it's going to need to be wired back down because it's just going to be too unstable. So somewhere about like that. So we definitely need some tie-down wire. And I have some extra wire just sort of sitting here. And it looks like I should be able to pull it off. Got a couple pieces of wire. And I always want to put my tie-down wire as close to the inside of the hole as I can get. If it'll let me. There we go. Yeah, there's one. And the same with this guy. Eyeball the length between the drain holes. And stick the wire through. And on the other side. Okay. That should be perfect. And then it's just a matter of doing a slight layer of soil. Then tie the tree down. And then add more soil to fill up the pot. So I've got a scoop of very coarse soil, and looking at the root ball, it was in a fairly coarse mix. Kind of hard to really discern, but here are some pieces from the old root ball. So pretty similar to this stuff. So I'm going to put it in the bottom as a layer. And put the tree about like that. Sorry for the bucket, but the bucket's got a finer grade soil, which I'm going to fill the rest of it up with. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now we need to tie it down. And just do it fairly loosely to begin with. And we grab the pliers. wires. And give it a good twist. And when I use wire to tie a tree down, it's pretty much the same philosophy I use when I'm wiring branches. Is I don't want it to be too tight. You don't want to grind it down in there. You just want to make sure that it's going to keep the tree from shifting around. But that's just tight enough to keep that from happening. Over tightening will create a scenario where it's going to be much more prone for the wires to cut into the roots. Oh yeah, that's nice and secure, very nice. And I like the placement of the tree in the pot. I think that's a very nice placement. And then fill it with a finer grain. And whenever I'm doing new soil into a new pot, even though obviously this is the old pot that it used to be in, I try not to mound it up too much, because if I mound it up too much, heavy rain or a heavy dose of water, because I water from a hose, will just wash the soil away, which is a giant waste of soil. So it's easier for me, better for me, or my philosophy at least is to keep the soil fairly flat in the beginning. And since this is a ficus, this baby's going to create its own hill, so it will grow back to how we saw it in the beginning. It's going to produce another mound all by itself, just from the nature of the way it grows. So I typically don't make mounds with the soil, because I could have mounted it up all the way to here and covered all these roots and mounted it up all the way to here, but that's not necessary. So now let's see what we got. I think that looks pretty good. And I cut, well, perhaps more than I planned to, but I don't think the tree is even going to miss a beat. And I've never tried this with other ficus, but I know for sure, because I saw Jim Smith do it all the time, and I also saw the results of his root cuttings. So you take this root cutting like this and put it in soil so it's pretty much level with the top of the roots, and it'll just sprout all over the place, just like the one that I showed you from my friend's larger tree. And that's maybe 2 years. So that guy is actually ready to be turned into a grove. Not in this video, that's for sure. So there you go, another Ficus nerfolia with some very nice movement, some decent taper. And even though we chopped a lot of it off, I think I'm going to like the root ball a lot better now, because we don't have that flat. I did not like that flat part of the roots. So we've rectified that. And then aftercare for this guy is I'm going to give it a little bit of shade just for the first couple of weeks. And we're at the beginning of July, we're in the height of the rainy season, and the rainy season has finally kicked in, where we've had rain almost every single day, another 80% chance today. And so This guy is just going to take right off. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've never seen this before, this technique, please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will keep you updated on the root cutting. And it's almost like doing a regular cutting, so it takes about 6 weeks for new growth to begin to sprout, and it's usually about a year before the sprouts have developed to a point where you can then decide if you want to turn it into a grove. So if you subscribe, you'll be able to see that, and leave a comment. There are huge numbers of trees that I would never try this with because you basically just killed them. But the Nerifolia is a tough plant, capable of this kind of treatment without really even a hiccup. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.